do they need, the developer, traffic flow permit from the state? Because this is pretty heavily density. Intensive.
Yeah.
Now, and with this, it's gonna be more, I would think the state is gonna have to say, okay,
Well, ultimately, let's assume a redevelopment plan is put in place and they're coming in for actual site plan approval. They're gonna have to do traffic studies, and whatever governmental entity has jurisdiction, they're gonna require them to do whatever's necessary.
Retime the traffic lights.
Yeah,
that
and
type of thing.
there's signal issues, signal timing issues, and they'll have to address all that. I mean, the one thing that I'll point out, and this has come up, is that, you know, in terms of the retail square footage combined with the residential, which have different peaks, they don't have coincidental peaks. Consider what this was at its full, when Colgate was fully operational, that was generating a lot of traffic during the commuter hours. And remember, that underlying zoning is, you know, is in place. And, you know, provided, if there was a market, someone could come in, you know, today, given the zoning, and, you know, basically mirror that and then some.
There were
From a
times,
traffic standpoint, but that's just not happening in the marketplace.
there was times during the week that Menon had to hire police officers for either trucking out first thing in the morning during rush hour or for rush hour traffic in across the double yellow for the employees coming into work.
Yeah, I remember you used to know the shifts that were during that.
Because after the nighttime shift, you had 20 or 30 tractor trailers trying to get out on Hanover Avenue, and they were renting police officers to allow their product to get out on the road and out of the area.
So when do traffic studies come into play in terms of this whole planning process?
So the traffic studies will come into play if and when a redevelopment plan is adopted, and the redeveloper is going to come in with all or some component of the redevelopment plan for a site plan approval before you. And then traffic studies will be required. But then I would assume that the redeveloper, you know, understands, in fact, I know they understand the process involved. And as also the board is aware, there have been a number of improvements that go hand in hand with what was approved in Hanover across the street. And all that is going to have to get sort of hashed out. He's going to have to prove his levels of service and all those other good stuff that you used to hearing. But that will come later.
Paul? I see on this concept plan, they don't show any access route out to Corey Road. This property actually fronts on Corey Road in the town of Morristown. And it would appear that was intentional not to have access at that point.
Is that Corey Road access is through Morristown, not Morris Township?
Right.
Yeah. So I think that, again, we only control Morris Township. I think the intent, by looking at the developer's concept, he was just going to roll in the Morristown portion with looping the road, and then there would be no independent access through the town of Morristown. And then it would all basically be coming from the Menon Road as well as Martin Luther King, and then the internal access drives. That was the intent.
Plus, it'd be pretty problematic.
Yeah.
I believe there's no access to a Morristown street. Corey Road, the part that accesses one Corey Road
Right,
and Corey Road and the Menon property is all in the township.
right.
So you have to go into the township to get to Corey Road to go under the bridge, for example, under the railroad.
Jerry, you seem to think there's access to the Morristown portion of Colgate to
Corey Road.
Corey Road.
Yeah.
And we've kind of haven't concerned ourselves with that because we have no control over it.
Mhm.
So this, you won't address that at
No,
all?
no.
Just seems to me that would be an important access route, not only for the people that were expected to buy these townhouses, but also for emergency equipment, also for people that want to come to where that new ball field is going to be located.
Well, I think, it's sort of I think, Jerry, it's a balance that, again, we can't control it because but even if we could, I think the balance is providing that convenience, as you say, and the emergency access with basically having another road where this development can potentially dump traffic into an area which, you know, is in part residential. So, you know, you may not want to have that. You may want to keep it separate. I mean, the nice thing about this is you get two sort of major means of access from Hanover, from the Menon Road to the Menon Road on one hand, Martin Luther King on the other. But they're going to have to satisfy you that the traffic works both internally as well as the traffic generated on the adjacent street network. They're going to have to do their studies to provide a level of satisfaction for you. But we just, even if we wanted to, we don't have control over that road if it's coming in only from Morristown.
Okay. Do you have more to present?
No, I think I've given you a flavor, but if there are any other questions? So you'll, in a week and a half, you'll have some reading to do, and we'll, the intent, I think, is to have this as the main, if not the only thing on the March 20th agenda. I don't know what else do we have on March 20th? Vision.
About the master plan?
We do have another one.
Not yet?
We kind of kicked that to April, it's too much.
You got some trees.
Yeah, but didn't you go to April? No, they went to April, they went to
K-Hop,
What was it?
K-Hop,
Amended site plan on March 20th?
amended site plan,
Yeah, for their
What about
bylaw.
Vision Crest?
and vision,
Both?
both. What's subdivision, that's not March 20th,
Oh,
that's
Mark,
April.
I'm sorry.
No, that was carried.
That was carried.
It's close though, I do have the redevelopment though. I have K-Hop, vision, and redevelopment.
Do you
K-Hop's not a big deal.
need action from us tonight? in order to proceed?
No, this was a,
Okay.
not a work meeting, but a work meeting.
So, how about this? If you could just summarize again, and we've kind of answered this about for an hour. You're about to prepare a draft plan that you're going to present at the next meeting.
Correct.
And it's going to, if you could just lay it out, it's going to be
Okay,
40% commercial, go with it.
Oh, it's going to be a split of retail, commercial, and residential. In terms of land area, probably roughly, and I'm rounding, 40% commercial, 60% residential, and open space recreation. The open space recreation residential portion will be 6 units per acre maximum overall. The market rate product will be townhouses with standards accordingly. The affordable product will be a mix of rental units and supportive housing in a different form, obviously, than the townhouse, different physical form. By the way, the rental housing building, as I recall, is 2 stories. Interestingly enough, which I think is nice, it keeps the height. It is 2 stories, right? I know we had
35.
2 stories. I know we had discussion about, that was another thing that we wanted, was to keep that at 2 stories. The ARC building, I think, is a single story, the supportive housing building. I mean, those are the basic parameters, and there will be a lot of other development standards that'll go, you know, part and parcel with the plan. Setbacks, buffers, berm, some design standards.
Trail.
Signage, what was that?
Trail.
Trail will be in there, the relocated ball fields will be in there, and signage will be in there. So that's kind of where we're at.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Can I make a comment?
I was going to ask, did we miss anything? Did you have anything that you might have?
As a part of redevelopment, could we suggest to the developer how they would name these particular developments? And I'll just tell you where I'm going. I had an idea or a concept about, you know, I think a lot of people in the township, you know, appreciate the history of the municipality, and the Menon family has been a big part of this town for a very long time. Certainly, we've all gotten the benefits of the donation of the land that's now the Menon Arena, the operations that existed there for decades were excellent. I'm wondering if we can say, you know, is there an opportunity for us to continue the Menon theme, where this property perhaps would be called, you know, Menon Commons, or Menin Place on the residential, or, you know, something that would continue the common naming from the arena all the way to the corner.
Is it too early to do that, or is that something that would go into a redevelopment?
That's something that I'm not sure, Todd, that I put in the redevelopment plan, but by all means, in future discussions with the prospective redeveloper, I think that's something that we can, if that's the sentiment, we can certainly broach that. I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
You know, it may give us an opportunity to have more continuity from the arena down to MLK if there's common names across an arena, retail shops, Menin, you know, some way to bridge some continuity amongst all these different uses.
I don't find that at all objectionable.
Right, but it's early yet.
Yeah.
But it's early.
But we can broach it with the redeveloper.
Well, no, we're
Yeah,
thinking that.
I don't see any harm in that.
You know that Franz and I have a pet peeve that we're always asked to name private roads that turn out to be private, and so we spend all this time naming the roads, and they say, that's right, it's a private road, they can do whatever they want.
Right. I do know that.
Do we have any say about the traffic flow? I'm looking at the residential part, and I'm thinking down in the corner near where the Morristown units are, there's a fire in there. The fire engine's got to do a whole lot of bob and weave to get to that point. And I'm almost thinking, and I know this may be anathema to some, but where there's a main entrance on Hanover in the middle of the commercial area.
Yeah.
If there should be some sort of a road that comes in, even if it's only emergency type, I know you're frowning already.
Yeah, that, I mean,
But when you look at the layout of the roads, it's kind of like, where are people gonna go?
well, I understand the issue, and I'm certainly appreciative of the emergency access question, so I'll agree with you on that. I think the real, and again, this is just a concept, and the short answer is yes, you will have control over those things under normal site plan, the internal regulations, but
look like this, even though this looks pretty.
I understand.
But I think the shot in from the proposed signalized intersection at the Menin entrance, I think that's a straight shot in. I think that's convenient. It's coming in, I think, the other way because of we're trying to like make the residential street system curvilinear to provide interest, but that doesn't necessarily help in terms of getting the emergency vehicle to the site on time. So again, it's a balancing question, but I would strongly recommend against having a access. I would keep the commercial access totally separate from the residential. I just think, Franz, it's a really bad idea. There are other ways to achieve, I think, your objective, and you will have the ability to do that at site plan.
And also Morristown will want access to their park. Right now, it's only through the township. So
That's their problem.
on the road to Quarry Road,
Not gonna-
it's their problem. Quarry Road might be the answer.
We used to make it a toll road.
So for now, though, the redevelopment plan won't make any mention of the Morristown piece? It's just as if it doesn't exist?
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it because one of the requirements is you need to address the, what's happening in the surrounding adjoining, so we'll address it. In fact, I think that their master plan recommends that that be single family. They've not pursued redevelopment, so we'll mention it per se, but other than that, I mean, I guess the only other thing that we could do affirmatively, if we wanted, was we could put some provision in the plan that there be provision for road connection, like stub roads for that piece to be served, if that was our intent. I wasn't intending to do that, but we have every ability to do that if we wanted. And I guess back to Jerry, your question, I'm not quite sure now, is that piece landlocked other than through the Township of Morris property at Colgate?
The piece of
The Morristown, yeah.
Well, it actually faces on Corey Road. That was why I was surprised when I saw the plan. It doesn't mention that Corey Road is right there, because that property faces on
It's
Corey
quite
Road.
that I'm not focused on Morristown, but let me see.
But isn't there a big slope there?
Yes.
It's like 20, 30 feet high.
Yeah, but that is right next to where the railroad comes across. And then you have a level area, you might recall there's some pillars, old stone pillars that you can see sitting there, and that's on the Menon property. So
I'm
you have several hundred feet of road frontage on Corey Road. And next to it is the one Corey Road property with their parking lot that faces on Corey Road.
That is access to Corey Road.
It does.
Yeah.
So we'll, that's a valid point, and I'll take a look at that more closely.
Yeah, if it wasn't intentional to
Because-
leave it off this concept plan, I would rather
Yeah.
see it on it.
Yeah. And, I'd be less concerned, I guess, if they weren't landlocked. If they had their own access, then they can do what they want with it. But if this piece were landlocked, then it might make some sense to, provide for its future development, even though it's in Morristown, through this piece.
Well, here's the other concern, is you're gonna put a ball field over there, soccer field. Some Saturdays they have 100 people at
Yeah.
that soccer field over at Menon. And they're all parking the cars, and half of them walk to the field.
Yeah.
So now you're putting it over here, you're making it really difficult for anybody to get to it, unless you had an access off of Corey
That's a
Road.
fair thing. We'll look into that. That's a fair
And like, I
comment.
think Tony mentioned, where are these people supposed to
Yeah.
park over there?
No, that's a fair comment.
Okay,
Anything else?
I think we're set. Board members, you're okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. The board members, is there any other business for the board decision? Mr. Hanson, are we okay?
We're okay.
Did I hear a movement to adjourn?
No, but I'll make a motion.
Mr. Fisher has made a motion, of course. I heard Mr. Romano seconded it. All in favor, say aye. Aye.